Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to our participants tuning in from the United States. Welcome to the webinar Water Reporting 101, How to Land a Coveted Spot on the A-List. We're pleased to see that so many of you are able to join us today, and we hope to give you some insights to help you improving your CDP water disclosure. Throughout the session, we encourage you to engage with us through asking questions in the question box or by downloading the Corporate Water Stewardship guidelines that we have through our handout, as well as the water reporting webinar slides that you can see in the handout section. My name is Naomi Rosenthal, and I'm a Key Account Manager at South Pole Group. At South Pole, I help our clients in the consumer goods and extractives industry to improve their sustainability practices across a wide range of areas. In particular, I'm also the focal point on water-related work. So for today's session, we're going to do a wide range of different things. First, we're going to have some explanation about corporate water stewardship, the corporate water stewardship journey, and in particular, the role that disclosure plays within that. Next, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the South Pole Group CDP scoring partnership to give you a better understanding of what it is that South Pole is doing with CDP and how that what we do with your score. Next, we'll speak about corporate water stewardship strategy in order to give you some background and help you to understand how you can improve your disclosure on the basis of having a good strategy behind it. And finally, we'll speak about a few different tips to help you improve your water disclosure when it comes time to completing the disclosure in the 2016 cycle. So let's begin by talking about water stewardship. As you all know, disclosure and transparency is an important starting point for corporate water stewardship. And while many of you may be working on a number of these topics, such as disclosure, awareness, management, and leadership areas at the same time, the disclosure with CDP will take you through these steps in a different way. For the scoring process, you will need to receive a minimum number of points in each of the 4 point areas before moving on to the next area. These are disclosure, awareness, management, and leadership. As you progress through the stages, you will be developing more advanced corporate water stewardship, and your score will be reflective of where you are along this journey. The CDP disclosure is composed of 6 different modules. The first one, current state, includes your context, company-wide water accounting, supplier reporting, as well as some of your water impacts. The risk assessment section includes what kinds of procedures and requirements that you have in place to better understand your risks. The implications section takes a look at how you use these water risks in order to identify new and improved opportunities to make your business more resilient. The accounting section asks you to complete information about your facility-level water accounting and ensures that you have a good understanding of your water use throughout the business. The response section includes information about your governance and strategy, compliance, targets, and initiatives that you're undertaking to move water resources management ahead within your business. The linkages and trade-off section ensures that you have a good understanding of how these different items might form linkages and trade-offs within your business. Now, before diving deeper, I want to say just a few words about the scoring partnership. In 2015, South Pole Group became the global scoring partner for CDP in relation to the water disclosure. What that means is that once you complete your disclosure and hand the data to CDP, we ultimately receive this information and use the CDP-developed methodology in order to give you a score. We apply the methodology rigorously and stand firmly behind the information that's given within the methodology, so it doesn't give us much opportunity to give a differing score to different companies. Rather, we use the strict methodology in order to make sure that all companies are treated equally. To better understand the role of the score, it's important to reflect on why the score was developed. Firstly, respondents to the CDP disclosure wanted to receive objective feedback. The score enables them to have a concrete feedback and shows where along the corporate water stewardship journey the company might find itself. Investors also wanted more comparative data. The data given enables the investors to use metrics in order to have more granular understanding of the environmental performance of companies. CDP also uses the score to catalyze better corporate water stewardship, with the basis of understanding that clearer comparative data enables companies to move more quickly as they move towards leadership. So let's speak about the corporate water stewardship strategy in order to understand how you can reflect this within your disclosure. Firstly, before beginning, make sure that you understand your own state of play. Have an evaluation ready in order to understand where your current company is, what kinds of stakeholders are relevant for you, where your suppliers are, what information do you have readily available now, and what does that information tell you? Only by understanding your current state of play will you be able to understand what direction you can take in the future. Consider your stakeholders. What expectations do they have of you? Your stakeholders will include a wide range of different stakeholders, ranging from internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders, such as NGOs, government, your suppliers, and a broad range of other stakeholders that may be relevant for your business. Take some time as you develop your strategy to understand what's considered best practice for your industry. Industry-specific best practice is important because not every industry has the same risks nor the same opportunities when it comes to corporate water stewardship. As you're in these early stages of developing your strategy, consider a few different key areas. Firstly, remember the role of good governance. Good governance is something that will transcend every aspect of your strategy, so it's important to consider it along each step of the way. Remember how good governance is necessary when it comes to your stakeholder relationships, when it comes to understanding best practices, as well as understanding your current state. Don't forget to consider an assessment of your material risks. By looking at your material risks, you'll understand which risks are of most interest for your company and which risks would be key priorities to address as you develop your mitigation strategies. Make sure that you have internal alignment on your definition of substantive risk. This, to some extent, goes back to the role of good governance. Remember to have all important internal players on board. By having internal alignment, you can ensure that the necessary players will be ready to support you when it comes time to implementing the strategy later on. Knowledge management. Make sure that you communicate the risks that you've identified and help them to inform the strategy. This might include broadening the stakeholder base that's relevant for your organization, because other stakeholders might be the ones to develop and implement the strategy. So make sure that you're using this information that you're collecting very wisely. Finally, don't forget to make a stepwise action plan. A stepwise action plan will help you to better take large goals and break them down into smaller pieces. Finally, set SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, and time-bound. These time-bound goals will help you to ensure that you can realistically achieve your vision of becoming a corporate water stewardship leader. I'm going to review two different tools that you can use to help you get there. Firstly, consider exploring the CDP water data. You can view this data at the URL that's located at the bottom of your screen. The data includes a broad range of different information about companies, across a wide range of different countries and industries, and overall you can learn from over 271 case studies of best practice. You can use these case studies of best practice to benchmark yourself and to understand what kinds of practices you could implement in the future. If you need any support on sifting through this data, South Pole Group is happy to help you with that. When we advise our clients at South Pole, we like to take things through a stepwise approach. Firstly, we try to think things through, then we design a strategy, and finally we act on this. So as you're moving within your corporate water stewardship, consider how you can break down the larger goals into smaller steps. We can help you prioritize this along the way, depending on which portion of the journey that you're on today. So now let's talk about improving your disclosure for the 2016 disclosure cycle. Here are some of our top tips for reporting. Firstly, answer transparently. Holistic, honest answers are the best answers when it comes to the CDP methodology. Make sure that you answer as transparently as possible, give as much information as possible, and don't be afraid to leave blanks if needed. But on the other hand, if you have information that's relevant, be sure to add it, because blanks are never good for your scoring on the CDP disclosure. Try to give company-specific explanations whenever possible. Company-specific explanations include a clear link to your company. That might mean including the names of individuals which were involved in setting a strategy. It might include using specific geographic information or facility names, site-level information, in order to give more granular information related to the element you are trying to highlight in that portion of the disclosure. As you're going through your reporting, try to learn from the gaps that you have in your information. Consider why it is that you're missing this information and what it might take in order to have this information for 2017. What does this information say both about your strategy as well as your company as a whole? And what can you learn from the missing information in order to better inform your corporate water stewardship strategy moving forward? Assess and engage at an appropriate level. Consider what's most material for your business and consider how you can improve this at those specific site levels. For many organizations, focusing on the supply chain will be very important, but for some industries, the site-specific information is much more relevant in the own operations. So when you're assessing, make sure you're assessing and engaging at the appropriate level. Similarly, set appropriate targets and goals. It's important to be ambitious setting your goals, especially the long-term ones, but it's also okay to set more realistic goals in the short term. Try to strike a good balance between ambitious, reach-oriented targets and goals and those which you know are more realistic for your organization currently. And finally, remember that the emphasis should not just be on a good CDP response, but it should rather be focused on action. So try to use your CDP response internally as a lever for action. When your colleagues ask you why you may be interested in doing something specifically within your organization, you can use the CDP response in order to get more traction for your own goals internally. Thank you, everyone. If you have some questions, feel free to place them in the question box. Okay, as we haven't received any questions so far, we're going to end this webinar now. Nevertheless, we look forward to hearing from you and welcome your questions at any time. In the slides that we'll be sending as part of a thank you email, you'll also receive information about my email address and my contact information, and I look forward to hearing from you at that time. Thank you.